Bienvenue dans The Language of Success, présenté par votre formatrice dévouée, Diana Bohan. The Language of Success, c'est le podcast bilingue anglais pour les professionnels francophones, qu'ils soient salariés dans un environnement international ou entrepreneurs curieux et ambitieux. Ma mission dans ce podcast ? Accompagner, inspirer et éduquer toutes celles et tous ceux qui souhaitent partager leur expertise et leurs valeurs en anglais aussi efficacement qu'ils le font en français. Avec une approche résolument humaniste et atypique, je partage avec vous mes meilleurs conseils afin que votre communication en anglais soit aussi simple que impactante. Hello, dear listener, and welcome to The Language of Success. I am your host, Diana, and I am so happy to welcome you to this new episode. And I hope this topic will be of value and interest for you because I'm going to talk about something that often comes up when you want to be coached or when you're actually joining any kind of training that is related to the business world and actually even related to language learning. And I don't know if it's something that I've witnessed in French culture, only because I don't attend or I'm not like part of French pods or groups, business group, that kind of thing. So I mean, like from what I see on the outside, I think it's not something that exists yet in French or French-speaking cultures. But let me just talk about it and then you'll see what I mean. So basically, the thing that I want to discuss or talk about with you, and then, of course, I'll leave you with the thought of what I will have said, and then you can send me messages on either Instagram or LinkedIn if you want to talk about it. It's the idea that you need to be held accountable when you are doing things. So what is accountability? Basically, if in a very generic sense, accountability is when you are being held responsible for something. So, like in French, you would say responsable, but it's like the translation is not exactly satisfying for me. Accountability would be for me the idea that you have, for example, either a coach or a teacher or a group, like a cohort that you're evolving with, and either the coach or the people inside the cohort are people that you are going to go back to and tell them, this is where I'm at. This is how I'm making progress. These are the actions that I'm taking, etc., etc. So basically, the idea of accountability in any kind of coaching container is about having someone you are going to tell what you're doing. Basically, it's about telling a person what you're up to. In a very basic language. It's having someone or a group of people that you're going to turn back to once in a while and tell them what you're up to. And the idea behind accountability is that the reason it's supposed to be helpful and the reason it's supposed to let's say, guide you towards success is that you are going to have people that you don't want to lose face in front of. So basically, if you say to your coach or if you say to your peers, I'm going to work on my content creation, and I basically say that I'm going to create 20 pieces of social media content by the end of the month or in the next 30 days. Basically, you have put it out in the world, and you have, more importantly, put it out to your coach or to your peers, and you have to keep your word. It's about basically keeping your word and not losing face, again, in front of your coach or in front of your peers. So the supposition behind this is that it's about the impact of groups and community, basically, and it goes back to probably something that you've heard of already, which is we as humans are used to evolving inside a group, and we need the group to survive, and we don't want to be ostracized by the group. We don't want to be sent away, and we want the group to accept us. And for the group to accept us, we have to show them that we are true to our word, and also that we are respectful people. And how do you earn respect? By having people approve of you, and having your peers or your coach approve of you and say, clap, 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 you're doing what you said you would do, so you're a good person, etc., etc. So the idea behind accountability is really the group pressure, or the pressure of someone outside yourself who is going to, in a way, force you to do what you said you were going to do. Now, I personally have issues with accountability. It's never worked for me. And you know what? It's not something that I've experienced with my students, but maybe because it's not something that I believe in. So maybe I give that vibe that accountability is not important for me. But it's something that I don't go by. It's not something that I believe in. And it's also something that I don't necessarily encourage people to do. I mean, it's not the first path towards which I will encourage a person to go to. So let me explain why. The reason why I don't encourage the whole accountability thing is because, first of all, I believe that, and especially in the sphere that I'm evolving in, which is teaching to adults and being an adult who has a business, we are, people of free will, and we are adults. So I don't believe that encouraging someone to have what I consider being like a childlike behavior, I don't believe that encouraging that behavior is going to encourage someone to be autonomous and independent in the actions that they are taking. It can eventually be like a temporary thing, like a sort of, a booster, or, like a starting point, a point from which you can jump. But for me, it cannot be a systematic way of functioning, because basically it means that whenever you are going to do anything, you are going to do it for other people. You're not going to do it for yourself. You're going to do it as a community pleaser, as a people pleaser, and you're not going to have that ability to judge for yourself if what you're doing is important for you and if what you're doing makes sense in your long-term goal. So, I mean, maybe if you're following, like some sort of coaching where you have predefined some goals with your coach or predefined within the cohort what priorities you're supposed to be working on and that kind of thing. And then, you say, so I'm going to do this and that. Why not, if it's to be like encouraged to start? But for me, it cannot be a way to function systematically because it just removes you of your own will and your own ability to judge if what you're doing, again, is the right thing to do or not. So, for instance, I've been part of business coaching groups, online coaching groups, and different types of group things, because this is usually a group effect, the whole idea of accountability. But it can totally be like if you're only working one-to-one with a coach or, English or business or whatever coach. It can totally be like, oh, I'm going to do my homework because I don't want my teacher to look at me like I'm not doing my work. Or if you're, evolving inside a group, saying, okay, I'm going to do it because I don't want my peers to think that I'm not someone who is an action taker. But, the whole atmosphere around that, I think, is one, being triggered in those parts of you that are, let's say, irresponsible and or immature and or, for me, related to like childlike behaviors, like, oh, I'm going to do it because I don't want to be seen badly by the teacher, or I'm going to act because I don't want to be badly seen by my schoolmates. And I don't think that needs to be. I think that you can have eventually like a working buddy or a working partner or someone like an associate also. You have that in business where, you're sort of bouncing ideas off one another. But the idea of having to go back, like if you're part of a group coaching cohort, again, business or language or whatever, and you're supposed to do something, and especially if you're supposed to do it alone, right? It's not as if it's a group work and other people are depending on your group work to create or produce something that's going to be beneficial for all parties involved. If it's just like, okay, go do your work, go work on your stuff, and then come back here and tell us that you did it, and you'll see that because you came back to tell us that you did it, you will feel like you've accomplished something, or you will feel better about yourself. I'm totally not for that, and I don't encourage my students to do that, and I don't do that myself because I want to do things for myself. And if sorry to be blunt, but if my person, I'm not going to use another word, but if my little person does not want to do something, is not doing it, there may be other issues behind. There might be mindset issues. There might be time management issues. I mean, there can be so many reasons why I'm not doing the action taking, why my students are not doing their, online work or their activities that I gave them. But that's on them. And it's on me as well. Because at the end of the day, if I didn't do something, well, my business is going to suffer from it. And if you, as an English learner or as someone who is being coached, you don't do the work that needs to be done, and you don't kick yourself in the butt to do what needs to be done, well, you're going to see the consequences, that your English isn't so good or that your business isn't thriving the way you would want it to. So for me, I think if I'm going to just in a sort of summarize my idea here, it's that I don't believe that accountability is necessarily a path of success, however much this factor has been used and marketed a lot by different coaches, whether it be English coaches, whether it be business coaches, because you see it in different spaces. I've seen it like, English coaches who promote their group thing on Instagram or whatever and say, oh, and you'll have the accountability, because you're part of a group, you'll have the accountability of having done your work and doing it because, you want to show up and tell people that you did it. But show up for yourself already, you're not showing up for other people. And when you're doing business and when you're learning English, like for the people that with who I offer my services to, you're learning English for yourself first and above all. You're doing it for yourself because you are conscious that this is going to open doors for you. And the same in business. Either you're doing it because you know that there's an end goal and you know that something is going to come out of it. And then eventually, more than the accountability thing, if you're not doing the work, whether it be for English or for your business, it goes beyond I have someone to tell or I have someone to explain to that I did it. Hey, everyone, I posted on my social media content, or hey, everybody, I did it. I studied my, grammar and my vocabulary and I reviewed it this week as I was supposed to. It goes beyond that. It's really like you're doing it for yourself. And if you're not doing it, well, beyond the cohort, beyond the group, it's your coach's role to say, okay, why didn't you do it? What was your block? Like, did you not do it because you didn't have time? Okay, how can we make it doable for you? How can we break up the workload so that it's doable for you? If I ask you to find 5 minutes, cut down on 5 minutes of social media and put in 5 minutes of, writing 3 ideas for social content, would that be possible? And then the next day, 5 minutes for, the outline of your social content, and then 5 minutes the day after to et cetera, et cetera. So basically, someone who's going to not look at whether you did it or didn't do it, but why did you do it? Or why did you not do it? Did you have legitimate excuses not to do it? Or is it just you being scared? Or is it you just being lazy? And I honestly think that people are rarely lazy. I think it has more to do, you can be lazy, but in the sense that, okay, you're really tired, you had a bad week, blah, blah. But I think that people who don't do things, it's usually like, oh, there's so much to do, or, oh, I don't have enough time, or, oh, I don't even know where to start. So it's more about getting guidance than about the accountability, because I don't think that an adult needs to be accountable to anyone or anything when it comes to business, when it comes to learning and applying what they've learned. They don't need to do the accountability thing. They don't need to be accountable towards anyone but themselves. You know what you have to do. You are not a child. You don't need to be told what to do, and you don't need to come back and tell me, hey, I did it. I did my homework. Because I'm an adult like you are, and I already have kids. I don't need an additional adult acting like a kid telling me what they did or didn't do, and finding excuses to invent to tell me why they didn't do something. I actually don't care about the excuses. Like, I can listen to them, but I'm more interested in, okay, how can we go beyond that? And how can we actually get you to do what you need to do? Because you can make all the excuses that you want, but at one point you need to get things done. Okay, so I have spoken nearly 20 minutes about this accountability topic. And I just wanted to mention it because, like I said, it's something that you will probably hear being, discussed or talked about or promoted if you want to be part of a, business coaching group or even English coaching group, etc. So these are things that, for me, you need to be aware of. And it's also about thinking for yourself. Like me, for instance, I am not for the accountability thing. But if you think, because some people are real people pleasers, like I am not. Like I am not a people pleaser at all. But if that's your thing, if your thing is saving face, if your thing is, making others happy, and making others happy makes you happy, if that's the way you're functioning right now, well, for one thing, there's, in my opinion, but then this is just my opinion, there is a mindset work to be done around that. But then if you're not uncomfortable with that state at the moment, if your way of functioning is making you happy, then you can go for the accountability thing. And I mean, like, yay, plus on est de fous, plus on rit. But, at one point, my philosophy is you are born alone, you die alone, and anything in between that is already influenced a lot by society, by, colleagues, family, environment, teachers. There are so many people who already want to have their say at how you need to lead your life and what you need to do, that whenever I think you have the opportunity to do things on your own, then you should. And when you have the opportunity to think about things on your own, you should. So that's just me. My dear listeners, I am at the end of today's episode, which kind of went sideways, which was maybe me talking freely about different concepts. I don't know. For me, the main topic was accountability, and I wanted to explain that term to you because it's something that you will encounter if you listen to a lot of marketing messages, or ads that are in English. But if this doesn't concern you, then of course you're free to move on to something else. Thank you for listening to me up until now, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to say what I have to say in your ears and giving me some of your time. I look forward to seeing you or talking to you next week with a new episode of The Language of Success. Vous venez d'écouter The Language of Success, présenté par votre formatrice indépendante dévouée en anglais, Diana. Si le contenu de ce podcast vous a plu, le meilleur moyen d'apporter votre soutien au travail réalisé est de vous y abonner sur votre plateforme d'écoute préférée. Vous pouvez aussi montrer votre appréciation en laissant 5 étoiles sur votre plateforme d'écoute si elle le permet. On se retrouve dans 2 semaines. D'ici là, à toi qui m'écoutes attentivement, sache que tu as tout mon soutien pour ta réussite en anglais.